Hello everybody, I thought I'd deal with a small topic that won't take 5 minutes. But actually, this isn't to talk about sex, which is what you're expecting. It's to talk about evolution. It's to talk about the evolution of sex. Why did sex rise in the first place? But there's little that people are more passionate about than sex, and this is well illustrated in fine art, in sculpture, and in pop art, which is going to appear in the next slide. But in the meantime, you can look at this, because this is a very famous sculpture by Rodin. And this is currently on at the Tate Modern, and there's lots and lots of people looking at this. Lots of other cartoon-like pop art pictures like this. Sex has also informed a lot of literature, like this book by Tolstoy, which is well worth reading if you haven't read it already. But I'm not just talking about humans here, because I'm talking about the evolution of sex. And a lot of creatures other than humans use sex as a form of reproduction, like the creatures that are appearing on the next slide, which is these birds. And birds are just one of the groups which use sex. And coming up on the next slide is another very different group of organisms, fish. In fact, these seahorses are rather unusual in that the males get pregnant. There's a pregnant male on the right there, which is rather unusual for sexual reproduction. But there's plenty of fish and other aquatic organisms which use sex, and even fungi, which sometimes are very sexual, can also use sexual reproduction. And some fungal species have thousands and thousands of sexes, which is rather unusual compared to humans. So it's very widely used, it's very widespread, and it's very enjoyable. So why is there any questions about its evolution? Well, there is, for evolutionary biology, one big problem. The ideal thing in evolution is to pass all your genes to the next generation. But with sex, you can only pass half your genes. This is a big cost. Here's some costly humans. They're costly for another reason, but I put them there because they're costly. Losing half your genes is a big evolutionary cost. Another big evolutionary cost is that sex breaks up nice combinations of genes in the sexual reproduction process, like these warehouses that are disappearing. So those are big costs. Why does sex survive? And the reason it survives is because it produces nice mixtures of genes, which are very useful. And we know mixtures are useful because you can use them to make things like chocolate cake, which is being made here. Now that's a good reason why sex should persist, but you need other justifications as well. And in the real world, the real justifications is to do with the fact that in different parts of the real world, the way that evolution acts are different. Some parts of the world are much tougher than others, like this bit here. In some parts of the world, you are dealing with very different environments, and in all parts of the world, the populations that are reproducing sexually or asexually are finite. There's only limited numbers of individuals in them. This gives sex an advantage. Also, over time, the nature of evolution changes. This is inevitable. In the evolution of sex, this has been described as the Red Queen hypothesis. Here we see the Red Queen from Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll talking to Alice. The Red Queen has to run to stay in the same place, like I'm running through this talk. And that's why it's called the Red Queen hypothesis, because creatures that are reproducing sexually have to run in evolution to stay in the same place. And one of the reasons they have to do this is because they're often attacked by parasites. Here's a parasite insect, a parasitoid, laying eggs into another insect. It's rather unpleasant, but it goes on. And there's lots of parasites around, and so that's a reason for sex. And this is a brief view of a scientific paper on the subject, where you have a model of genes evolving to resist parasites fluctuating on the bottom, and the number of sexual organisms in the population on the top, and it increases and takes over. There's a lot of parasites around. Here's some moss sitting on trees, and as a result, the Red Queen hypothesis is well supported in a lot of different scenarios, and is a good justification for the existence of sex. 5 minutes is nearly up, and so why am I talking about everything? Well, there's one sexually reproducing species which exists in large numbers. We're very familiar with it, and it's changed nearly all of the world. And it's probably going to go on continuing changing the world, and that's the matter for the future, but that's why I'm talking about everything, because sexual reproduction affects everything. Thank you.